to one of the best circuits in the world. And welcome to Superpole. This will determine the top 20 order on the grid. The fastest 20 cars from last night's qualifying and night qualifying sessions combined go into this, where they get an outlap, 2 flying laps and then an in-lap, and the order of the best times will sort out the grid. David Anderson and John Watson looking forward to the Superpole. We only get it at the total 24 hours of Spa. It's the one bit of activity all day for the GT teams because their work was largely done yesterday. So many of them have had a pretty relaxed day. They don't have to get here, John, until late in the afternoon, but those that are involved in Superpole now have to step up to the plate.
Oh, yes, they do. 7,000 metres, 7 kilometres around this 19th turn, Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and this is the point. If I was in the 24-hour race, this would be the high point for me because this is the point you get the top 20 car driver combinations who go out and can rag it. I mean, they've got a brand new set of tyres. They can carry that set of tyres over into the 24-hour race itself, but they can't start the 24 hours here at Spa-Francorchamps on that set of new tyres. To me, it's the excitement of seeing all 20 cars on the limit, and that's what motor racing has always been about for me. Then we've got the endurance, 24 hours, a different story. It'll be a 24-hour sprint race, make no mistake, and the 20 cars that are in the shootout are going to be at the very head of that battle.
Absolutely right, and this is the first car to go then. So 20th yesterday is the 666 Lamborghini. Phil Keen is given the driving duties, and he makes his way out onto the circuit then. This is the Demon Tweak sponsored Barwell Motorsport Ram Lamborghini. So they get 2 laps, and the better time is the one that you count. So Phil Keen is on track. The next man to go is one of the drivers that won last year's event. Nick Katzberg will be next in the Rover Racing BMW. Then there will be Christopher Mies. Then there will be Mirko Bortolotti, Alexander Sims, Callum McLeod, Robin Frins, Franck Pereira, Alessandro Pierguidi, Stephen Kane, Maro Engel, Maxime Soulet, Clement Schmidt, Maximilian Buch, Christopher Hasse, Felix Rosenqvist, Laurence Vanthor, Danny Juncadea, Maximilian Goetz and Shane van Gisbergen in that car, 58 McLaren that was fastest yesterday evening. That's the order. Down the pit lane goes Nick Katzberg then in the BMW. A car new this year, of course, the M6, and he is about to make his way out onto the circuit. There it is, the M6 that still looks a bit more touring car than GT car maybe, but it's been impressive in its maiden season.
Oh yes, and I mean it may look, as you say, a little bit more production, but open the hood on the BMW M6 and you really have to look deep into the engine bay to find where the engine is. And it's got a very unique turbo system which comes from the back of the engine, and the exhaust from the turbos then exit just ahead of the A-pillar, the bottom of the door frame. Very, very complicated, extremely sophisticated bit of engineering from M Sport in Munich.
So Nick Katzberg gets a lap to warm up the tyres. This was the corner last year, if you remember, at which the leading Mark VDS BMW had its engine seizure and went out of the race, at which point all hopes rested on the Katzberg and Paltela and Lure car. And boy, did Nick Katzberg step up to the plate last year, because he really was a bit of a hero. And it marked him out, not only as a star for that, but then more drives came on the back of it as he made that real breakthrough. So here we go, the first car onto a flying lap. Phil Keen is the man behind the wheel. If you've not come across Phil Keen before, then stand by, because he's a very unassuming but very, very quick British driver, much in demand, whether it's for modern or historic motor racing, and you're on board with him, coming out of La Source.
So we're down the hill, 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th gear before you get to the bottom of the hill, then back into 5th gear, the flick to the left, ride the curb on the left-hand side, then back, and the confidence you need to turn the wheel right, then up in the air, the car gets all light as it comes over radio, settles again, then through the curve onto the Kemmel Straight, up to 275, in some cases 280 kilometers per hour, before then you brake, and you can brake much deeper and later into the first part of Lake Coombe than you might imagine. But late braking isn't always the quickest way to make a lap. It's great for overtaking. So Phil Keen, neat into, neat in the middle, and neat on the exit. Got to be careful, that white line. We know that drivers are going to be penalised if they abuse track limits. That's, for me, been the entire story of the weekend. Now down through Bruxelles. Again, it's just hug the curb on the inside, get track position, then the cut to the left. As you come through, we call it the corner with no name. Clean exit. Lamborghini looks comfortable right now. We wait to see what the lap time. Obviously, the first car into timing and scoring has got purple. Into Pujo. Early apex runs the car wide. Then you've got that exit strip. you can run the car on hard on the brakes into that flip-flop, into Fagna. Careful in, looked like he lost a little bit of the momentum in the first part of it, then picks up the throttle. Again on the exit of the corner, do not abuse the curbing. And even more so here at Stavelo, it's so easy to run the curb and those inside two wheels go over that white line. Again on the exit of Stavelo, the Paul Frere curb. Favourite place for drivers to abuse track limits. Then up the hill into sixth gear. The turn before you come to the absolutely, well, committed Blanchimont corner. And if you can keep the throttle flat out all the way through, you will gain a bit of time. Then up to the final two turns, 18 and 19. The right, left was euphemistically called the bus stop chicane. It's a bit of a shame because it isn't really a great corner in itself. Across the line, and the Lamborghini records a 2 minutes 20. Well off what we saw last night at 2:18.5, I think it was.
Yeah. Much warmer today as you look at Nick Katzberg, but of course he gets two chances, so the second one, now he's dialed himself in, could be even better. Nick Katzberg, though, is down in the first sector. It's not purple, it's a personal best, obviously, but it's not as good as Phil Keane.
Absolutely, and that's going to be telling for the BMW driver. Now, the BMW is a pretty high downforce car. We would expect to see something in this middle sector. So, up the hill, seeing Nicky Katzberg running the car, maybe not quite as wide, purple in that second sector, so maybe indicative of what BMW have got a car set up. Some teams, driver combinations will go for low downforce to have good straight line speed to be able to make a pass on the Camel Straight or coming back up the other side of the valley into these final two turns. Pretty neat and tidy in the middle, just trying to get the car straightened up, get on the power. Don't fight the steering wheel too much. Comes across the start finish line. Got to beat 2:20, and he does it by, well, almost 3/10 of a second.
But Phil Keane's on his second lap, and he's gone quicker than anybody now, or quicker than the two, if you like, in the first sector. So he should go faster still. Now there is Christopher Mies. He's on track now in the Phoenix Audi. So this is the third car to go, using just about as much as is acceptable, going through Les Corps up towards the curb, Paul Frere, and he now goes even quicker than the other two in the middle sector.
I'm not surprised. I think Christopher Mies is a star.
Yeah.
Sometimes under the shadow of some of the big Audi names, but I've been impressed with Christopher Mies this season. He just gets in, he's an unassuming, and he makes a big error, and this lap has been blown by just too late in the brakes, carried too much speed, couldn't make the turn, had to run deep into the corner and compromises. Still a 2:19.5, pretty impressive considering, and that's the quickest lap to date, but capable of doing much more. Phil Keane in his second flying lap.
Exactly, and the sectors were looking good, so here he comes then. So is he going to start 20th? Is he going to start better? Let's see. Here he comes, Phil Keane then, with a 2:19.5 to beat, and as he crosses the timing line, it is a 2:19.757. It's better, but it keeps him third fastest. So the Pro-Am Lamborghini's work is done. One of the drivers of that car come the race, Oliver Gavin, so it's going to fly in the race, that's for sure. But a good effort done by Phil Keane. Now there, you've got Mirko Bortolotti in the overall Lamborghini. And Bortolotti, we know he's fast.
Yeah, again, he's got to be really, really careful, just flirting with this track limits issue, which is going to dominate both in practice now and qualifying, and undoubtedly, maybe even worse in the race. I mean, taking big risk on the entry into Blanchimont, running the car with two wheels on that white line. That will be being watched right now by those in authority who could actually say that lap, we will disallow it because you use more of the racetrack than you're permitted to do. But let's see what that first flying lap from Mirko Bortolotti is. A 2:19 point, not particularly second quickest.
Yeah,
but considering the amount of track he used, but what's happened with BMW goes quickest.
Yeah, Katzberg is quicker than Mies, who's quicker than Bortolotti. So that was Nick Katzberg's second chance. Mies has another go, and Bortolotti has another go. Remember, they get 2 laps. Now there is Alexander Sims, who is on his first flying lap of the 2, and the Superpole start for Mirko Bortolotti is under investigation. Now, you're given a few seconds grace, but you're given an allotted time, and if you're too far ahead or too far behind that, then you can lose your lap time.
I mean, there's so much complexity in just something which is fundamentally pretty straightforward. Yeah. Let's see what Alexander Sims can conclude as he comes across the line. To 20.7, not particularly what we'd imagine that
No.
Alexander Sims might do.
That's the
One more
slowest
lap
lap,
to go.
yeah.
Bortolotti on this lap looks like he's got fastest first sector, 39.5, and we wait to see whether he can see any further improvements.
Not only is Bortolotti under investigation for his start time, he's under investigation for track limits as well.
Oh, was that the curse of the commentator once again?
Well spotted, John, yes. Right, there you've got the Bentley. This is the Team Parker racing car of Callum McLeod. Callum's been busy today doing the Lamborghini race earlier on. That's wide, isn't it, coming out of Le Col?
I think he might get away with it. I think the two inside wheels were just about sufficiently on the line that people will give it the benefit of the doubt. I mean, we're not coming down to the last centimetre. We're coming down, but that's the danger, running too far to the right on the way into Blanchimont. No problem on the exit. Car was only half the car across the line. It's that entry into Blanchimont. We've seen a number of drivers over the weekend really taking a liberty. So what can Callum McLeod do as he comes across the line? 2:17, 2:18, 2:19. Sixth quickest.
Faster. Yeah, I mean, that's the slowest so far, but there's another lap to come. Alexander Sims is pushing on. Now, Mirko Bortolotti, absolute best and a personal best in the number 16 Lamborghini. Here he is. Now, it might be that little good will it do him. And we're also hearing now that there's another car under investigation for track limits from Pereira. But here comes Bortolotti. The time to beat is a 2:19.507. He's got the run up towards the timing line to do it. And this is looking pretty good for the Italian who goes through. And the lap time that he does is a 2:18.691. That's the best yet.
Yes, and that's more like the kind of pace we were expecting in the Superpool. So Bortolotti has thrown down the challenge, and now back to see what Robin Friens and the Audi can do. Comes out a neat exit out of the final two corners, but lap time 2:19.6. Robin Friens currently fourth with that lap. There's one more lap to go, and to challenge the time that Mirko Bortolotti has just said, that's a strong lap. 2:18.6, very, very close to what we saw last night in those two qualifying sessions. It was the first of the two in daylight that proved to be the quickest. It was Shane van Gisbergen who went out and did an absolutely stunning lap and eclipsed the four Mercedes that had previously dominated the top five positions.
Now, Franck Pereira's been a gun in this car as well, and that's clearly off, isn't it?
Forget it.
Yeah, that's going to incur the wrath of the stewards. But Pereira then, having done a personal and then an absolute best, the absolutes are the key, because that means you're going quicker than anyone that's been so far. But Pereira knows how to hustle a car along, so this will be a good effort by him.
Yeah, Robin Friens on the second flying lap. Purple in that first sector, so keep an eye on him. I think that second sector time from Frank Pereira will be under review, because he was he was well and truly way over the exit of Paul Vercourbe.
Let's just see what the lap time is, and as he goes through, he goes quickest provisionally, 2:18.547, but his out lap was under investigation for track limits. His first flying lap, he's clearly off for track limits. This is number 50, Alessandro Pierguidi. For old time's sake, it'd be good to have him on the front of the grid, wouldn't it? Because he was a star when he was there a couple of years back.
He was the story of the first corner, let alone the first lap. So the Ferrari has got good pace. A circuit like Spa-Francorchamps with those long straights, particularly the uphill Camel straight, and then the return straight, which is more a dog leg with the very, very quick and big commitment Blanchimont corner. So still waiting to see what Robin Friens is doing in that middle sector. He's still showing quickest in that first sector. Personal best in the second sector. So can Robin Friens bring that number 2 Audi up a little further towards the front? Frank Pereira's time, we would imagine, under investigation for track limits at turn 17. And that was Blanchimont into Blanchimont, not the exit of Blanchimont.
And now the Superpole start of 00 is under investigation. Mauro Engels, Mercedes. There's number 2, Robin Friens. Now, he's 7th at the moment, but with an absolute best in Sector 1. The number 2 Audi, bit marginal out of the bus stop, goes over the timing line and goes 4th fastest. Their number 2 Audi, 4th fastest. It's Pereira, Bortolotti, Pierguidi, Friens, Mies, Katzberg, McLeod, Keane, Sims. And this is Stephen Kane.
Yes.
This is going to be good.
Well, Stephen will, again, be very careful on the exit coming out of Stofolo. Stephen will run it right to the outside edge of the limit. He'll try and keep it within those limits, up the hill into Blanchimont. I'm assuming this is going to be no lift whatsoever from the Bentley driver. Car very, very good on curbs, so it doesn't get upset by running the curb. Some cars much more sensitive. Then big dip as the car hits the brakes very heavily and overruns. Again, you could see he braked really heavily, braked slightly late, compromises this lap, compromises his second lap, which is about to commence. having coming across the start-finish line. So Stephen Kane drops to 2 minutes 20.6, the slowest of the 10 cars currently on it. It's the Ferrari, the 50 Ferrari of Pier Alessandro Guidi, fastest overall in the first sector. Wouldn't it be lovely to see an Italian car get in the middle of all the other, particularly the Mercedes and Audis, which have dominated to date. And of course, do not forget the Garage 59, the number 58 McLaren of Van Gisbergen, Rob Bell, and just watching to see what was going on with the Ferrari.
So Pier Guidi then, this is his second lap. He is third on his existing lap. He's done the absolute best now in Sector 1, but he's down in Sector 2, and he's down by 9/10 of a second. So good start, but a big chunk of time lost in the middle sector. Now this is Mauro Engel, who is at the wheel of the Linkin Park sponsored Mercedes, and doesn't it look good? If you didn't watch the coverage last night and it's your first time seeing the car, I think you would agree this looks like a proper bit of kit, and Mauro Engel will break the beam at the end of his first lap to go quickest of all, 2:18.449.
But no purples.
No, but it's all strung together nicely.
Absolutely. He's got 3 great sectors, and he's got an advantage of what, just 98 hundredths of a second, 98 thousandths of a second. So Steve, this is the number 8 Bentley, personal best, obviously. So good times from Maxime Soulet in this car. Maxime Soulet has been really, I suppose, the star of the number 8 car, along with Andy Soucek. Both going right, the third driver in that car, again, just right on the limit of what's going to be prepared to be accepted by the race director and the stewards. So we've got to be careful, not overrun. We saw Stephen Kane overrun coming into these final 2 turns. Then powers the Bentley out. So he's got to beat a 2 minute 18.4, and he does a 2:18.7, puts him up into 4th place.
Good effort that, isn't it, as well? And Stephen Kane's got another shot, hasn't he, as well? He's still out there, so Stephen Kane is currently the slowest, actually. He's 12th of the 12, Stephen Kane, which isn't where you expect to find him, so there's more to come from that car. Now, what about 85? This is Clement Schmidt. We've got Engel going quicker still, 2:18.449 then, so he is the fastest. And Engel has done an absolute best in the first sector.
We say that the 85 Mercedes would be my sleeper for the event, because we've seen some really strong performances from the 85 Mercedes-Benz, but running very wide like that, you're putting yourself into jeopardy when your first lap be challenged. Interesting, the number 8 Bentley of Maxime Soulet has now gone fastest overall in Sector 1, so 39.244, strong run in the first sector for the Bentley.
And go Schmidt.
And it's just blown it all together.
Schmidt happens. So Clement Schmidt in strife at the bus stop, and he makes his way up towards the timing line. Stephen Kane had gone up to 11th, incidentally, and Mauro Engel's gone quicker in the middle sector than anybody else. Here he comes, so he's already the gun, and is he going to go even faster? Mauro Engel, who has been a real hero in GT Mercedes around Macau, he was the man in the Nürburgring 24 hours earlier on in the year, comes now up towards the timing line. 2:18.4 is already the best time. 17:18, 2:23, quicker still.
Quickest ever we've seen this weekend, and that is faster than we saw from Shane Van Gisbergen in the McLaren. As we go back to the 84, Maximilian Buch, and always a matter of honour within the Mercedes, the HTP teams, the AMG teams, and others, to who will be quickest. Maximilian Buch to sit on to see where he's going.
Or a couple of boots.
No, I used that one before, didn't I? But I mean, again, I say Maxime Soulet, nothing special in the middle sector, but he still has got that fastest first overall time.
So here comes number 8 Bentley. Buch 5th, incidentally, 2:18.863. Soulet goes still 4th. It was a better time, 2:18.698, but it keeps him 4th fastest. All laps of Franck Pereira, who is 2nd fastest, under investigation. Track limits at Blanchimont. All his laps, so the out laps, but significantly, the 2 timed laps are under investigation. And this was a little drama at the bus stop.
Yeah, I mean, just too quick. I mean, we saw Stephen Kane similarly in number 7 Bentley, just trying that little bit too hard to gain a little bit of extra braking performance, but the car just didn't want to accept it. So we go back to 85. It's got one more shot. Interestingly, car 85 with Clement Schmidt has gone fastest in that middle sector. So if he can get it together and not overshoot, into this final these final two turns. Be careful coming up the Blanchimont. Don't run too wide. He's okay. He'll get away with that. No problem whatsoever. It's the exit now he's got to concern him with. No problem whatsoever either. So now don't overbrake coming into turns 18 and 19. Tuck the nose in. Looks like he's done it moderately well. Still probably a little bit too quick on the entry. Needed the speed on the exit, not the entry of the corner.
And 14th he was, and fastest he is. How about that? 2:18.025. Next one to go, Christopher Haase. He's done 2 personal bests, so they would be, because he's not done a previous lap. The purpose of saying that is to highlight they're not purples, they're not absolute bests, but 14th fastest is what you might call a gentle start-up lap, really. There is 84. Now, Max Buch's got another chance, and at the moment he's 6th fastest.
Yes, and it's the sister car that has gone quickest overall. So again, you can see the little bit of what's going on, because you know your sister car has done a fantastic lap, 2 minutes 18.025, quickest lap yet again in this top 20 shootout. Maxi Buch pretty good coming into Blanchimont, pretty good on the exit. Car, you could see a little bit of scrub as he came through the corner, then onto the brakes, get it slowed down. Don't try and make up time in the first part. This is where you need to get the traction, you need to get the power on, get the drive to force the car off the corner and up and across the start-finish line. It's only 3rd quickest.
So we have at the moment Mercedes, and then 4th, Mercedes. Felix Rosenqvist has gone 4th fastest. This is the gun Audi, isn't it? 28, which is Laurens Vanthoor at the wheel of it. And this is the end of his first flying lap. The Belgian driver is let off the leash for Superpole. Go, 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 Laurens. And let's see what he can do in the WRT run. But Audi Sport entered car up towards the end of his first of 2 laps.
And he does a pretty good job entering and exiting 18 and 19. He didn't try to overrun the corner. He comes cleanly through it. Goes, well, 9th. 9th. At 2:19.152. He was just warming up. He's still got one more lap to go.
Exactly. There's a plan. Don't do it all too soon. And most people have been quicker on the second than the first anyhow. Now, this is the Christopher Haase car, which, remember, did a fairly gentle start-up lap to be 16th fastest, so a 2:19.846 the lap time. Now we're looking at personal bests, so a 39.8 in the first sector, that's 6 tenths down. A 64.0 in the middle sector is 8 tenths down. It's not that great, this, is it, from the Santalok car?
Again, well, I mean, probably at the time will be under investigation. Ran a bit wide on the entry into Blanchimont. I mean, everybody knows you've got to be careful, and it's you're just trying to nick as much of the racetrack without getting nicked yourself.
Now the McLaren is on track. You've just seen it go through the shot. So Shane van Gisbergen is out there. As there is Christopher Haase, who goes 9th. It is an improvement. 2:19.143. This is the Daniel Juncadella Mercedes, the former Formula 3 Euro Series champion for the Black Falcon team over the timing line. That's the start-up lap done. That's 18 fastest, but there's more to come. And we've got 2 more drivers to offer up 2 lap times. Shane van Gisbergen and Maximilian Goertz are both out there.
So the 85 comes in, current provisional pole sitter, and he's got 9 thousandths of an advantage from the 88 car, which is, that's the sister car, Felix Rosenqvist.
And this is the Vanthoor effort. So, yeah, Rosenqvist's been flying under the radar, but 2nd fastest on his 2nd lap. So Felix Rosenqvist, 9 thousandths of a second shy. Over the white line goes Vanthoor, but he's pushing. How is he doing in the sectors? Personal bests, but they're not purples. So he's about half a second down in the first sector. And Maximilian Goertz is looking good because he's done a personal but an absolute best in the middle sector. Maxi Goertz, winner of the event with Ben Schneider, and Maxi Buch comes over the timing line and will go 5th on his first effort.
Yeah, he was sort of hesitated on the exit coming out of the final 2 turns. Laurens Vanthoor, personal best, 1st and 2nd sector. Is this going to be a Audi provisional pole position? It's going to be 3rd row of the grid, but Maximilian Goertz on that lap, he got fastest overall in the 2nd sector, so we were looking further down to see what Juncadella's doing. There is the McLaren going rather slowly. Rob Bell's face, is that a problem?
I don't like the way the lights were going on and off.
Well, I wonder, is that a power system problem? Suddenly the McLaren creeping around, and that is something we hadn't expected to see, let alone Garage 59.
So Mercedes with everything crossed here, because it's, at the moment, a top, 5 lockout for Mercedes. Daniel Juncadella has yet to complete his second lap. Here he comes with good sector times up towards the bus stop then through Blanchimont, but is that a problem for the McLaren? We'll have a look in a moment.
Well, it is, because middle sector time, 1 minute 14 against. The best is round about at 1:03. So clearly we saw the McLaren slowing down. Now, we don't know the reasons for that, whether Shane van Gisbergen's been able to reset whatever the problem is. There are fail-safe devices within the cockpit for a driver to reset. He will only not. Well, he's not. He's stopped on the exit of Stavelot.
Juncadella has gone 5th, incidentally, but this is the big story, that last night's quickest car is stranded out by the side of the circuit. Yes, better it happens now than in the first laps of the race, but even so, drama for Garage 59. Maximilian Goetz then is also going to be affected, isn't he? Because there's a yellow light there, meaning he should lift a little bit with a car stranded up the road. So Goetz, in this sector, on the back of an absolute best in the middle, has to go past the stationary car.
Yeah, now the issue about, is it a double wave yellow or is it a single wave yellow? Because from Hockenheim we understand there will be no double waved yellows in qualifying. It will be a red flag. That is not the case here. He's not only quickest, personally fastest overall in the middle sector, so that'll get somebody's attention. But overruns again, just braking too heavily too late into turn 18, and overruns and loses the momentum of the turn up into the start-finish straight. What's that? It's
pole.
Yeah,
it's pole. It is 217.651, and there's the reception. Even Clement Schmidt has to force a smile because he's going to be second on the grid. And it was a personal best in the last sector. The last sector was with the yellow flag.
That, I've no doubt, will also draw the attention of everybody, because not only has he gone fastest overall, but he's gone quickest by over 0.3 of a second. That's a considerable amount of time when you consider the rest of the field is covered by, well, there we just forget about what the rest of the field. That's the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
The car that dominated the first part of qualifying on Thursday evening, stranded down at the exit of La Source, and we don't know the reason. We hopefully will find out.
Clement Schmidt, though, real good story that, because that's somebody that doesn't always get the credit he deserves, and perhaps hasn't been seen too much as a high-profile GT racer, but he just gets on with the job and has delivered in style in that session, and he missed out by 0.3, admittedly, but a good effort to be on the front row of the grid. But we were talking last night in qualifying about how Mercedes was here with its sledgehammer to crack a given nut, and how about that, because the top 6 on the grid are all Mercedes.
Now, I would say the big story, aside from the Mercedes domination,
and the McLaren,
is who will be in the pole position Mercedes-Benz for the first time in a Blancpain event. Gary Paffett.
You reckon?
No, well, I don't mean he's not going to start, but I mean, what a great way for Gary to have his...
Oh, I see what you mean, yes.
Your first 24-hour race in Blancpain Endurance. Start that car he's in, starting in pole position. You know, is the guy blessed, or is it the team blessed? Whatever it is, we have to wait for that time to be ratified, but certainly dominating time by over 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, Maximilian Goetz did the time. There's sense for him to start because he knows about GT racing, but it's been an intriguing session. But the question mark now is over the McLaren, isn't it? And what is the problem? Let's just quickly run down the order. So Goetz the fastest then. You can see Thomas Jaeger and Gary Paffett as his co-drivers, Indy Doncia and Luciano Baccatta with Clement Schmidt for second. Felix Rosenqvist third, Maro Engel fourth, ahead of Maximilian Buch, and then Daniel Juncadella sixth in a car that runs in Pro-Am in the race. Seventh, Laurens Vanthoor, eighth provisionally from Pereira, ahead of the Mirko Bortolotti Lamborghini, then Maxime Soulet, Alessandro Pierguidi and Christopher Hasse for 12th. Then we have number 2, which is Robin Frins, ahead of Christopher Mies. 15th, Nick Katzberg. Then we have the Bentley of Callum McLeod. Phil Keane was 17th, 18th for Stephen Kane. 19th fastest, Alexander Sims, but no time at all for the McLaren. That's the talking point. What's the problem? Can the McLaren be made good, ready for the start tomorrow of the 2016 total 24 Hours of Spa? So there is the stricken McLaren, and that is a big concern. Shane van Gisbergen still trying to get it started, as, hypothetically, if it stopped in the race, you would try and start it and bring it back. So the question mark surrounds the car. Let's just quickly catch up on one or two of the highlights of the session. with the cars all in echelon formation, allowed out at a given time. And the first one to go was Phil Keane in the Lamborghini. Robin Frintz Audi was another quick car, and so too was 74 Font Pereira, but he was straight away being looked at for track limit abuse, and it may well be that his time that's currently 8th does not stay. He was the fastest for a time. Alessandro Pierguidi was quick in the Ferrari as well, that car in the end being 11th fastest. Stephen Keck struggled a bit, didn't he, in the Bentley, but it was all very nervous going through the pith path, so 18th was the time. And then the car at Lawrence Vanthoor stepped up to the mark. Mario Engel likewise, and he was briefly at the fastest, looked at by Ben Schneider and by Elmer Berman, his 2 co-drivers. There are quite a number of cars and team managers that have to either go to the stewards or are being investigated, and one of them may, in the fullness of time, turn out to be this car, because it did the fastest time but had to contend with the yellow flag zone as well. But I'm not sure there was much that can be done about it with the McLaren parked up the road ahead. No time recorded by Shane Van Gisbergen because the problem came on his first lap, and so that car will start 20th, and it's a Mercedes lockout. The top 6 on the grid, all the new Mercedes SLS GT3. It's going to be a fascinating race, and tomorrow's total 24 Hours of Spa starts at 4:30 local time. We're on our half an hour before. We look forward to your company for what should be another fabulous race. For now, from John Watson and David Addison, it's goodbye, and we'll see you for the start of the race tomorrow afternoon.